Y'all know what's going on. Welcome to another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and today I got a special episode for you. I'm going to be interviewing a Miss Reese Hale. She's the wife of a friend of mine that I'm incarcerated with. Actually, I work with him. And he was telling me this story about his wife, how she almost ended up in prison. Now, let me lay the foundation for you real quick here, right? As far as I've always known, Miss Reese, she's like a straight-laced person. And I never imagined that she, of all people, would find herself in a situation where she almost ended up in prison, maybe even with a life sentence, right? So when I heard this story, I was intrigued and I wanted to talk to her about it. And she has agreed to talk to us about this and share her story. I hope that you enjoy this story. It's one that I think that will be informative, especially to women. But I think that everybody can learn something from this story, right? So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Miss Reese, what's up?
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great on this wonderful day that the Lord has made.
Dig that. First of all, I want to thank you for doing this interview. It's been a long time coming. But before we get started, introduce yourself to my audience so that they'll know a little bit about yourself. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. My name is Vanetta. Hale. Everybody calls me Reese because it's what I prefer to be called. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a GM for Burger King. I own my own business, which is called Reesy Sweet Creations, where I make all kind of sweet treats. I do birthdays, weddings, etc.
Okay. You make sweets, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like what?
I do cake pops, candy apples, Rice Krispie treats, cake sickles, flavored popcorn with liquor or candy.
All right now, with the liquor. You checking IDs, right?
Yes, IDs. If you already got 21 and up.
Okay, how could somebody, if somebody wanted to buy something from you, how could they find you?
Well, I'm on Yelp under Reesy Sweet Creations, and I also have a Facebook page under the same name, and they can contact me through there, and I have my business number and my phone number on there.
Okay, did that. Good for you. But look here, I want to get right into it, right? Because, like I said in my introduction, hearing about you and your exploits back in the day, it really surprised me, right? But I think a lot of people go through what you went through, but they don't. Who is that we talking to? I hear another voice right there. Who is that? What's going on?
That's my nephew. I keep him on my days off.
Oh, okay. You a babysitter too. You left that out now.
No, children keep me sane. I love children.
Children keep you sane.
So pure.
Okay. Well, what's your nephew's name?
His name is Israel Josiah.
What's up, Josiah? What's up? Oh, that's biblical, ain't it?
Yep.
Oh, okay then. Dig that. But look here. Let's get back to it, right? I'm curious about I want to hear the story, right? But just so you'll know, I'm more curious about how you were able to pull through and find yourself, accomplishing great things in your life, right? Because a lot of people go through what you went through, and they don't find that rainbow on the other side of this, right? So tell everybody what happened, what went on with you and your ex-husband.
Well, pretty much, I wasn't happy, and obviously he wasn't either. We wasn't happy with each other. We were just going through the motions. I was doing it for me. I was doing it for my children because, in the black communities, there is always a mother and a father. There's always a single parent home. So I was doing it for them to raise my children right.
So how old were you at the time?
To the side.
How old were you at the time?
32.
You were 32 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Dig that. So you put your feelings to the side, right? And you wanted to stay with him for the kids.
Right.
How many kids did y'all have?
2 sons.
2 sons?
Mm-hmm. Kyrus and Lamarius.
Dig that. Shout out to them. Well, so, go ahead. Finish your story before I ask you a question.
Well, to make a long story short, he was cheating. He had been cheating for a while, obviously, because when I found out about it, when he dropped me off from work, what I'm saying, he was going to her home, and he was obviously taking our children there.
Yeah.
He had been doing it for a while, but I was just working because I got tired of sitting home because I wasn't at home mom. So when I found out about it,
How did you find out?
My oldest son, Kyrus, at the time, he was like 4.5. He was getting ready to start kindergarten.
Right.
He was very, very smart, very intelligent. He caught on quick. So when he told me, I was at work in Kentucky for the weekend. I didn't go for the weekend because I had to go help out another store at the time where I was working. When I got back in town, he had dropped the children off at my sister's, and I was like, kept calling his phone. He wasn't answering. So when I went in, I asked, so I was like, "Where's your dad?" And they was like, "He's gone." And I was like, "So where did you guys think?" Because I've been calling him the whole weekend. I couldn't get in contact with him, so I was kind of worried.
Mm-hmm.
So they was like, "Well, Mama, we stayed in the hotel and we grilled out food at the hotel." And I was like, "Okay." And I know in my mind that's not right.
Right.
But when kids tell stories, they just tell what's kindred to them. So I was like, okay. So me and my sister sitting there, she was like, "So what hotel did y'all stay at, Kyra?" He said, "We just stayed at a hotel and we grilled out the weekend." I was like, okay. And the look on my face, my kids can tell the look on my face.
Right.
And he looked at me and he got to crying and he's like, "Mama, please, Mama, please." And I'm like, "Mama, please what?" I'm like, "What is it, Kyle?" I was like, "Son, why are you crying? Why are you shaking?" He's like, "Mama, please don't tell Daddy what I'm about to tell you."
Mm-hmm.
And so when he said that, something in me just kind of started, Now I'm like, "What is it, son?" Because I've never seen this type of fear on his face.
Right.
Even when I'm about to spank him, he knows why. I explained to him when I used to spank him, but this with him, he knows why. So I've never seen this type of fear on my face. So that was angering me. So I'm like, "Well, what is it?"
Yeah.
He said, "Well, Mama, we stayed at another woman's house. We didn't stay in a hotel." I was like, "Okay." And then my sister looked at me. She was like, "Well, who's the woman?" And he said, I said, "Where does she live at?" He explained to me where she lived, and everything, and described her house. And me and my sister looked at each other. She was like, "That sounds familiar." And then he goes to explain to me that it's in close proximity to where my sister used to live, like right down the street, like a minute. You can walk to her house.
Right.
And my sister looked at me and she, she called her name.
Okay. So she knew this girl.
We both knew her. She was my childhood best friend.
Oh man. And she knew that was your husband.
She knew that. They worked together.
Got it.
He was her supervisor.
So how did when you realized that it was your childhood best friend, how did that make you feel? That initial feeling, what was that?
That it angered me, but not to the point to when when I asked my son, I was like, "Why are you crying? What's wrong?" And he was like, "Well, my daddy told me that if we told you where we stayed, that he was going to beat our ass."
Yeah. So that's what.
That's what clicked me. Yes.
That's what sent you into the rage.
That is it.
Okay, now let's get to it then. You got sent into a rage. What did you do?
Well, surprisingly, I was in a rage, but I was calm.
Well, that's not good. I'll tell you that because most people, it's the calm people in prison that you got to watch, right? So you sound to me like you was fitting right on in with the crowd that I'm in now.
I started plotting right then.
Right then.
Yes, one thing about me, anything I do, I'm going to be very methodical about what I do. I'm going to plot and plan everything. Now, whether the plan falls through or not, you know what I'm saying, that's God's plan. But I'm very methodical about anything I do when I plan something. Yeah. So my sister looked at me and she was like, "Reese," she was like, "Go home. Don't go over that girl's house. Just go home and just put him out and be done." And I'm like, "Okay."
So you had
she looked at me, she's like,
So you had somebody that tried to keep you level, right?
Yeah, all my family tried to keep me level because I'm the baby of 6 girls.
And none of that worked.
It didn't.
Okay, go ahead.
So she was like, I know you're not going to listen. She was like, "Just go home." I was like, "I'm going to go home." I said, "You know what?" I said, "I'm going to catch him when I catch him. But when I do catch him, it's going to be a problem." So she was like, she made my nephew go home because he's like real calm and mild mannered. She was like, "Eric, go home with your auntie and try to talk to her."
So what were you thinking?
Like, I'm going, huh?
What were you thinking? What were you going to do?
I was going to hurt him. I was going to kill him.
you went 0 to 100. You were gonna kill him. You weren't just gonna beat him up. You decided that he.
Well, I wasn't gonna kill him. My plan was.
Name him one way to kill now.
I'm gonna tell you, because I mean, what my result was.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to kill him, and then I was like, no, I don't want to kill him because I know if I kill him, I'm gonna go to jail.
Well,
so I went home, went on the internet, and I searched up. Anything below the body is not attempted murder. Anything below the waist is not attempted murder. So what I was gonna do?
Oh, you dangerous. You dangerous. Yeah, you dangerous.
Very.
You look it up. You looking up laws and everything on the internet.
Yeah, well, mother, I was raised. My grandfather was the first black captain of Gaza, so I knew a little bit about the law anyway.
Go ahead.
So I went home. He still had his gun at the house. He didn't take that out. Mm-hmm. So he had 2 clips. He had just bought a 9mm. It was still fresh in the box, never been fired. I was like, okay. So I went home, took a bath, changed clothes, put on a sundress and some flip flops, and went on the internet, did my little search. So I went in there and pulled a gun out from under the bed. Put on some gloves, wiped off every bullet, wiped off the gun, wiped off the clip.
Okay, hold up right there. I think I need to put a disclaimer out there with you. Look here, whoever is listening to this show, we are not advocating that you go out and do what she did. We're telling the story. We're just telling the story. And then we're going to get to the psychological. But go ahead, because you laying out a whole lot of details. Go ahead, though.
Well, I told you I was methodical, so
absolutely.
My nephew comes in the room. I had put my kids in there, in the room, whatever, and let them play their little game. He's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
He was like, "You need to go to bed." I said, "I'm fine." He's like, and he looked. He was like, "Why do you got that gun in the mud?" I said, "Get out of my room and mind your business."
Right.
So he was like, "What are you trying to do?" I said, "I'm not trying to do anything." I said, "Just mind your business." So I got up. I got my car because he had took my keys, but he didn't know I had a spare.
Right.
I always have a spare. So I pulled my spare. He's like, "Where you going? You don't have any keys." I said, son. I said, "Let me explain something to you, nephew. Your auntie always has a plan B." I said, "These my plan B." I said, "So I'm I said, "You stay here with the keys or y'all can roll." I said, "But I'm going."
Okay, now let me ask you a question. So you had all of these people trying to stop you, but you were dead set on what you wanted to do, all right?
Yeah. Because I was in tunnel vision. I wasn't listening to anything that they were saying. I didn't want to listen.
Right. Okay. Now let's fast forward. Let's fast forward a little bit to the actual incident. What happened?
Okay.
What happened?
Well, I pulled up. My son had told me, Daddy's going to park his car behind the house beside my room. And everything my son told me was true. He could take us from our house to her house, whatever, this, and then the third. When I went to his car, he had been taking clothes out of the house.
Right.
Slowly but surely, but I never paid any attention.
Right.
So, I popped the trunk. He had, had 50% of his clothes in the trunk. I took all of them out, cut them up, burned them. She had a creek by her house, threw all them in the creek. He had just put a new system in his car. I gutted his car. Broke his system, $2,500. I didn't care. Right. I was going to put a sneaker in the tank, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to let him keep his car.
Well, that's nice of you.
I was like, I'm gonna let him keep his car because he gonna need somewhere to go because when I'm done with him, he's not gonna have nothing if I don't kill him already.
Well, you terrible. Well, go ahead.
So,
go ahead.
I go to the front of the house. I knock on the door. I'm knocking, and me and our nephew we battling. Like before I even get out of the car to do this, I pull the gun out, and it's like on the cartoons with the devil and the angel.
Yeah,
that was actually happening to me, and that's what's so funny about it. It's like the devil telling me, you can kill him, that's your husband's a crime of passion, you're not going to get that much time. And on the other hand, the God was telling me, Reese, just go home. If you let me handle it, I can do it better than what you about to do right now. And basically, it was like they got a 50-50 in me. I didn't use the gun. I uncocked the gun, slid the gun back up under the seat, and I told my nephew, I said, look, what I'm about to do, I said, at first, I told him, I said, bullets don't have no names. When you hear the first shot, pull out.
Okay.
But once I decided not to use the gun, I was like, you can sit here, you can take my kids and go home, but I'm still going to do this regardless of what you say.
Okay.
So I go and knock on the door. I'm knocking on the door. They act like they didn't want to let me in. Boom. I see when I'm talking to him, when I turn around to Reese knock on the door, I see the curtain swoosh. I'm like, okay, so now they're playing with me. I don't like nobody toying with me.
Right.
Either you face me or I'm going to make you face me. So anyway, I kicked the door in on top of her and made my way into the house. So when I kicked the door in on top of her, he's in the bedroom, butt naked.
Okay.
He didn't even hear me come to the door. When he seen me come in the room, he looked and had a look of fear on his face, and he was like, "How did you get in here?" I was like, "Bitch, it don't matter." So I just went in on him. I just laid in on him.
Right.
So, you know what I'm saying? I'm punching him. He can't even get his clothes on because every time he grabbed one eye, I'm hitting the other one.
Right.
He grabbed the other eye, I'm hitting the other one.
Okay.
So then he was like, he was like, "Stop hitting me." So then I put the two-piece on him on his mouth. His mouth just started pouring.
Oh, you hit him with the two-piece, did you?
I did.
Yeah.
So by that time, she made her way out from under the door. She come in there. She was like, "Get out of my house." And I was like, "Bitch, make me." I said, "I'm in your house." I said, "But you can make me get out." I said, "We can fight. It don't matter." I said, "But I ain't leaving up out here. I see some blood."
So you had clocked all the way out at that point.
I did. She could have killed me anything, and I'd have been in the wrong.
Yeah. So how did the police end up at the scene?
Well, somebody had to call them because I was in the room. I tore up that whole house. I tore up, furniture, home interior. I smashed his phone. I smashed her phone, so they couldn't call the police. So somebody else had to call them because I know they couldn't call them because I broke the phone. I broke TVs, mirrors, everything.
Okay.
So when me and her were getting ready to, box, he finally, he was able to get his clothes on and run out the back door. So he runs out the back door. She's chasing him. I'm chasing both of them. So we get around the corner of the house. When I'm getting ready to grab her, snatch her up to go ahead and put hands on her, the police cocked their gun and was like, "Freeze." So I just,
What's up, next?
So I sat there. I was like, "Dang." He was like, "What's going on?" I said, "Shit, I'm finna fuck somebody up."
And you telling the police this?
Yeah, I don't give a damn about the police at the time. I didn't care.
You didn't care.
I was not afraid to go to jail and do whatever time I had to do. I didn't care.
And what? This was at nighttime, right?
This was at 3:00 in the morning.
Okay, go ahead.
So he was like, "Hang tight." So he leaves me back there with his training officer because he's training the officer in the field. So he goes to the front. I guess he talks to her or whatever. He comes back and he asked me. I told him what happened. And he was like, "So you come down here, you did all this because..." He was like, "So, ma'am, how did you find out?" And I explained to him how I found out.
Okay.
He didn't believe me.
Okay.
So I was like, "Okay." I said, "I tell you what, I'll make a deal with you." I said, "I know you can't question my son without my permission." I said, "I'll give you permission." I said, "Question my son." I said, "If our stories don't match, you can take me to jail and give me as much time as you want to." I said, "But if my stories match, you got to let me go or you're going to have to lessen my time or something." I said, "That's how confident I am." He was like, "Oh, really?" He was being an asshole. Of course, most of them always are, especially up in Galveston. So he's like, "Okay." So he's like, "Which one is it?" And I told him, I said, "That's my son right there. That's Kyle." So I said, "Take him to the front of the house away from me and ask him what happened and why I'm down here."
Okay.
So that's what he does.
So he confirms your story. Let me jump a little bit. He confirms your story. He comes back to you and he lets you go?
No. Well, actually, he comes back.
He comes
and
back?
he was like, "You telling the truth." He was like, "Wow." He said, "You know what?" He said, "I understand how you feel." He said, "Because the same," he said, "I caught my best friend in a bed with my wife." He said, "So I know how you feel." He said, "Look here." He said, "This is what I'm going to do." He said, "I'm going to write you a cite. Ma'am, go home. Take your kids and go home." He said, "All I ask you to do is just to show up in court." I was like, "All right, cool." So he's like, "Hang tight." So he comes back. He was like, where's your husband?" I said, "I don't know." He was like, "Well, does he have any warrants?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "So what's his name?" I gave him the name, date of birth, Social Security, all that. He looked him up. He was like, "Well, he's a fucking coward, but he doesn't have any warrants." He was like, "Well, I'm going to just go ahead and process you, and I'm going to let you go take your kids and go home." I'm like, "All right, thank you." So about 30 minutes, he comes back. He's like, "I got some bad news." I was like, "I'm going to jail, huh?" He was like, "Yeah." He's like, my field officer called it in, and I called my supervisor and asked him if I could just let you go home. He was like, "No, you need to go ahead and you need to bring her ass in." I said, "Shit, I ain't fucked up with that. Go ahead and run it. I don't care."
Right.
So that's what he did. So I had caught 4 felony assault charges.
Okay. Now
and
we
he
get
had
into
him dropped down.
Okay, now we get into this is what I want to get to. So you got 4 felony assaults. You're in jail. How long did you stay in jail?
Maybe 3-4 hours because as they were taking me to jail, I passed my family members going because somebody that knew me called my older sister and my mother, so they were on their way down to her house where I was, but I was passing them in a police car.
Okay, so they made your bond.
Yes, well, actually, they made my bond too.
Okay, how much was your bond?
My bond was like $800.
So you had $8,000 bond. You had to pay $800.
Yeah, because it was like he had it dropped down to misdemeanors.
Got it.
Because of my situation. He helped me out a lot. Officer Junior Fields.
Okay, so
I never forget it.
Okay, that's good. So here's the thing. Now you got the charges dropped. When you go to court, what happens?
I just had to do a year's probation. They wanted me to take anger medicine. They had me tested to see if I had anger issues. And
wasn't it obvious?
Huh?
Wasn't it obvious that you had anger issues?
I didn't have to take anger management because they
Why
said
not?
I didn't have anger issues. I was within my right.
They exempted you from taking anger management classes.
Yeah, I didn't have to take them.
That's what's up. Okay, I'm gonna get a little bit more serious. Okay, check it out. So you didn't do any. How much time did you do in jail other than 3 hours? That was it.
I had to do 30 days. I was facing 10 years.
10 years.
Because I went back after I went through this stuff with him. They got a restraining order. I got barred out of Walmart for 2 years because that's where they worked or whatever. Because they were so scared or whatever. So I still went because I didn't care. Everybody go to Walmart. You're not gonna stop me from going to Walmart.
So you violated the order.
I did. At that point, I was in my I didn't give a fuck mode.
You were still in that mode.
I was in that mode for a long time.
Okay, tell me what got you out of that mode. Well, first of all, before you answer that, so you did 30 days in jail, right?
I did 30 days, but the judge was nice enough, and the police officer helped me out. I did them on weekends.
Okay, you did the time. So while you were in jail, how did that make you feel? Were you still in that? I
was still in that mode. I didn't care.
So you didn't care?
I did not care.
You were still black
because
out.
I went back down to her house again after I got the restraining order, and that's what led me to facing 10+ years.
What did you do?
I went down to her house after we went through the court, child support. He tried to get cussed. He was on drugs real bad, whatever. And the stipulations of the visitation was my kids were not to be left with her because the only reason why she got her kids back because her mother died. Okay. And none of her family got tired of helping her, so she got her kids back on a humble. And I know how she treated her kids because she was on drugs. She mistreated her kids. That's the only reason why her mother had them. And I was like, she mistreat her own. Mine is not a problem. If she do anything to mine, I'm going to jail for murder.
So you went down there because she had your kids?
She had my kids at a birthday party. He knew she wasn't supposed to have my kids. The only reason why I knew that is because my nephew has a child by one of her cousins.
Okay. So hold up. Why didn't you call the police?
I didn't want to call the police. I wanted to lay hands on them.
So you wanted to go down there regardless. You would have found a reason to go down there anyway, right?
The only reason why I went down there is because she had my kids. Well, I didn't go to her house. Actually, I went to the place where she had me. She was at a birthday party. Right. And when she saw me, we was on a high-speed chase because she knew she wasn't supposed to have my kids. But when she saw me, she didn't think she was going to see me. So right. She was walking my kids to the car. She seen me. She threw my kids in the car for number one. She didn't put them in a seatbelt. So we on a high-speed chase from the birthday party to her house. Yeah. And it's pissing me off because I can see through the back mirror of her van, and my kids is holding on for dear life because she's running stop signs, pulling out in front of cars, and in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna kill this bitch. Yeah. Because you put my kid's life in danger. You playing, so I'm not gonna play with you when I get a hold to you. She pulled in the driveway. She parked. My kids, you know what I'm saying? She grabbing it. She got them by their shirt, like pulling them, like dragging them to the car. So I put out that car. I was like, if you don't get your hands off my kid, ho, I'm gonna kill you.
Right.
Get off from in front of my house. I said, make me get off from in front. I said, you couldn't make me last time. I said, make me this time.
So
I said, you know what?
But that whole time, hold on a sec. But that whole time, it never dawned on you to call the police.
I didn't want to call the police. It didn't dawn on me. I didn't want to. I wanted to take matters into my own hands.
Okay. Now let's jump past that. All right. You facing the 10 years. You don't get the 10 years, right?
I don't get the 10 years yet.
Okay. You don't get the 10 years. Now, get us to the point to where, how long was it before you started to get it?
Well, I kept going back and forth to court with them because they kept doing little stuff to me. Like they called my probation officer and said I failed a drug test in court. So, you know what I'm saying? He was like, if you fail this, this piss test, I'm going to lock you up and I'm going to go ahead and put your 10 years in effect and this and this and that and third because you lied to me. So I'm like, something got to give. And my mama sat me down and she told me, she said, look, you hard-headed and you don't want to listen. And what snapped me back is she said, you're out here being foolish, you don't want to listen. She said, but let me put some reality in you. She said, if you go to jail, you know he's going to get them, right? I said, no, he can't get my kids. She's like, yeah, because they're in his last name and he's their father. And the judge already let him have visitation, even with him failing drug tests, so you know they're going to give him to him, right? So did you want him and her raising your kids while you sit your ass in jail? And it clicked.
So your
She
mom
said, why don't you sit your tail down and let God take care of it? She said, you keep trying to get into God's way, and that's the reason why you keep bumping your head. She said, if you sit down and give it to God like I told you in the first place, everything will work out itself.
So, okay, so how old were you then?
I was 35.
So 3 years you played around like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like? You said your mom said give it to God. What does that look like?
What you mean?
What did you do? What's your process? You say you gave it to God.
Well, my process, I had to think about what really snapped me when she told me. She was like, if you get those 10 years, and that's just the minimum they was gonna give me. That was just the minimum, 10 years minimum. That's just the start.
Yeah.
She's like, you probably gonna get more time on top of that. She said, do you want them raising your kids? And I was like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. She was like, go home and think about what I said. And I went home and I prayed and I said, God, I said, you know what? I said, you done let me have free reign for 3 years and you still didn't lock me up. So you must see something. So what I'm gonna leave it alone, Lord. I'm gonna let you handle it. I'm done. I wash my hands. I don't want anybody raising my kids but me.
Right.
It was hard. I'm telling you, it was so hard because, Joe,
yeah.
I'm telling you, my mind frame at the time,
right.
It was murder, kill, blood. Just from them two. Like, I was off probation, and a girl that knew me saw him, and she was like, your kids want to see you. He stopped coming to visit. When he saw that didn't bother me anymore, he even stopped his visitation. He stopped picking them up. Because we had to meet at the police station because they were so scared. That's what we had to do, our pickups and drop-offs at the police station.
So you stopped feeding into that. You stopped feeding into all that negativity. And then,
I did.
And once he saw that it wasn't bothering you anymore, he backed all the way up too.
He backed all the way off of me and the kids.
So is that what you would tell somebody that might be going through what you're going through, is to not feed into the negativity?
So as long as you feed into it, the devil's going to have his reign, and everything is not going to be just. As soon as you let that negativity go and give it to God, you're going to get your just. It took a while because I was so hard-headed.
Yeah.
And everything is done in God's time, not yours.
Okay. Now let me ask you this.
That's why.
Okay. Let me ask you this, and I get that, and I agree with that. But let me ask you this: how did that whole situation affect you in your next relationship? And
it affected me a lot because I didn't trust you.
How long was it before you got involved in another relationship?
I was in two relationships after that, but it didn't work for me because I still, you know what I'm saying, my mind was like, fuck men, they only good for one thing for me, and it wasn't sexual. It was only oral. I treated them like dogs. I didn't give them respect. If I talked to them, if they try to talk to me, I was like, look here, bro. I don't want nothing from you. Yeah. Only thing I want is, can you bite down on me every now and then to give me satisfaction? Other than that, I don't want to talk.
Right, right. Okay. A little explicit. I hear you though. I hear you. So, so let me ask you this. So it was like F men. There ain't nothing they can do for you, right? Other than that, right?
Right. That's it. I
So
mean, they were just basically like a piece of meat to me.
yeah. So you just used them for what you wanted, right?
That's it.
So how long was it before you started to see the humanity in men again? Let's put it that way.
It was a long time. I was by myself for 10 plus years. No. The only sexual satisfaction I had was oral. Because I wasn't going to let a man get on top of me because I just didn't. That just.
Right.
I hated men that much. Only thing I wanted for you was oral.
Okay.
I didn't want no conversation, nothing financial. That's it. But you had to pass the test first. You can't let just know anybody do that to you. And put that out there.
Okay, you put that out there. All right. But so it took you 10 years. It took you 10 years before you took a chance on men again.
Yeah.
Wow. And did you share everything about yourself with him?
I did. That's the first thing I did. If one thing about me, I'm very candid. And
Right.
if you can't hide it from
Yeah, we can
God,
tell
so
that. We can
therefore
tell that now.
I'm not gonna hide it from you.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I got a couple of more questions, and I'm gonna wrap this up because this has been a real insightful interview. I appreciate you. I appreciate you for being cutthroat honest with it, right? I appreciate that, and I know that my listeners will too, right? But tell me, from time to time now, do you ever have those moments where you start to doubt? Does that creep back in every now and then into the relationship that you're in now?
You talking about doubt men?
Yes. Do you have those old?
No.
They don't come back up. Those old feelings don't come back.
No.
Was there ever a time where they
don't.
did?
No, let me tell you why. Because after all this stuff happened to me, I lost everything. I literally had to start off from scratch.
Right.
And I was living with my older sister, and it was one night I couldn't sleep. God would not let me sleep. So I got up, and like my room, I had my own personal in and out door. So I went on the porch, and I said, you know what, God? I said, I don't want a man to be my distraction. I want it to be just me and my children.
Got it.
And I want to work on my relationship with you and whatever you need from me. I said, that's what I want.
Got it.
And so that's how I was able to have peace for those 10 years, and God worked on me.
Got it. Okay.
It took 10 years plus,
Okay.
and I needed that.
Okay. Well, look here. I really appreciate you doing this, right? But if with your permission, right, I want to ask your husband Brian one question, right, before I wrap this up. Is that okay with you?
No problem.
Dig that. Brian, what's up, man?
What's up, bro?
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, dig that. Got an earful with this interview, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you knew all of this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Should have warned me a little bit. But
Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay. But look here. I want to ask you a question, man. Real talk. Do you ever notice, she said it doesn't creep back up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But do you ever notice changes in her behavior from time to time that make you think that she might be bouncing back and forth between that trauma that she dealt with and where she's at now?
Yeah, because when we first got together, she had a big wall up and she had trust issues, which I can understand. I mean, any woman that goes through that's a traumatic experience. So, and it took a while, and it took a lot of love and patience for me to break down that wall and build that trust up with her. Mm-hmm. And now we got something beautiful. And it does, depending on the conversation, or I may bring up something about their daddy or something around the past, I can tell she'll get a little bit, her voice or something like that will change because it kind of brings up old feelings and stuff. Okay. But I could tell she's definitely grown from that situation.
Okay, now this is what I'm gonna do with both of you, and I'm gonna go with you first, Brian. Then I'm gonna come back to you, Miss Reese, and we're gonna wrap this thing up. I want, in 1 minute, Brian, I want you to tell my audience, what would you recommend a man that finds themselves in a situation like this, in a relationship with a woman that's been through what she's been through, what would you tell that man? What advice would you give him as far as being in a relationship like that?
The best advice I can give them is, man, when you're dealing with a woman that's been traumatized and scorned like at, ultimate infidelity, I would say, man, have plenty, and I mean plenty of patience.
Plenty of patience.
Plenty of patience. I mean, seriously, because it took a long time. Because when we first got together, man, I mean, I literally had to break down. I literally had to break down all those walls, man. It took a lot of love, patience, and just good conversation. I was almost like a psychiatrist, really.
Yeah.
Talking to her, trying to
Right.
help her get past that. Because, like she said, she wasn't with anybody for 10 plus years.
Right.
So she's gotten used to being by herself.
Got it.
And then now that she's trying to move on to the next step in her life and have a meaningful relationship, that was kind of hard for her in the beginning because she was so used to just being her and the sons. Now that I'm in her life now, she had to, sort of kind of, get used to that.
Find some room for you.
Find some room for me. So,
Absolutely.
and like I said again, man, it took a lot of love and a lot of patience, man. And now
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
That's what's up. Miss Reese,
Yes.
now I want to ask you, what advice would you give a woman that finds herself on the other side of your situation? What advice would you give them as far as about being in a relationship again?
Basically, just take your time, because that's what I did. Like he said, it did take him a minute to tear down walls, because even though he was locked, first of all, let me clear this. I don't do relationships with guys that's in jail. I always told any of my boyfriends, you go to jail, we broke up.
Yeah.
So this was a new one on me, and I couldn't believe that I found myself in a relationship with somebody that's in jail, let alone falling in love with them. This is like a whole new thing for me.
Yeah.
And for him to be the person that he was, I still didn't trust him, because I knew that, like, while you in jail, I know guys, have sex with the guards, nurses, and stuff like that. And me and him had an incident where I thought he was, and I was getting ready to just leave him flat out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to talk about that in another episode then. Not today, but we're going to get... Yeah, that's news to me. But anyway, but look, I get that. I get that. So you didn't trust him, and now you do.
Yeah.
And you do. And you think that this is
He
the person...
basically loved the anger out of me.
Come on now. All right, then. Get your T-shirt. Get your T-shirt. I like that. Love the anger out of you. That's what we're going to end this on, right? I want to thank you for doing this episode. I really appreciate that. You and Brian, right? And, yeah, I'm going to leave it with that. I don't think I need to say anything else, right? This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.